So the deal with Mcsorley's is that they are the oldest Irish bar in the city. They're in the East Village. Hi. We're going to Mcsorley's. Do you know where it is? It's on 7th Street between 2nd and 3rd. Mcsorley's opened in 1861. And apparently they were also the last bar to open its doors to women. They didn't let women in until 1970, and it was because the city forced them to. Okay, so when was the first time that you went there?
Sometime between 1972 and 1974, somewhere around there, because I was 18. I do remember drinking the Mcsorley's and having beer and just a lot of noise. And I can't, beer was pretty cheap, probably 50 cents or something back then. I can't remember.
Bob Caragini is like Italian kid. You're an Italian kid. And like all of the guys, and you're Italian kids from Yonkers, and then like all of the guys that work in Mcsorley's are like these old Irish guys. They're mostly from Brooklyn. Like, do you ever remember it being like a problem that you were Italian kids trying to get into an Irish bar?
No, you know what? We never really looked for trouble. The real guy who was the legend in college in Iona was Pete Koji. I mean, he was like, he used to walk along the street, and where there were street lights, there would be moths in the street lights. He would grab the moths and eat them while he was walking. Oh, the other craziest thing, Koji was meeting a girl named Kathy. Pete sits down and he introduces us to his girlfriend. And, there was another girl named Kathy. So we were all laughing, Kathy, another girl named Kathy. So she wasn't too happy about it, right? So, it was like, okay, what do you major in? She was, I don't know, psychology. So we were making fun of her because we're all in business school, right? So she says, Pete says, well, she's a white witch. Anyway, so all your girlfriends were witches. She starts rubbing her hand with her fingers, like horns on her hand.
Okay.
And we said, what are you doing? What are you doing? She says, well, I'm a good witch, so that you guys are pissing me off, so I'm gonna put a spell on you guys. But it's not gonna you're gonna get hurt, but you're not gonna get hurt that bad, right? So we're all laughing. So now it's time to go home, right? And I remember cousin Tony was in the front seat, and he had his head halfway out the window, looking one way. Carrie was looking at the back window, and I was driving forward. We were about 30 miles. We were going about 30 miles an hour because we were waiting for something to, fall out of the sky and hit us or some shit. So it was so fun. So Carrie, then we said.
I realize as he keeps telling me these stories that the guy that he's saying is super crazy might actually just be my father. First time I went to Mcsorley's was in college. I actually lived across the street from the bar, and every Monday I had a class with one of my roommates, and then after class we would go to the bar. And I knew that my dad had been there a bunch because he recognized it, or when I told him that I had gone, he would recognize the name and say something like, "Oh yeah, Mcsorley's." But I didn't realize how much of sort of a reputation he had until one day I went into the bar, and the one of these old Irish waiters with their long beards and smocks came up to me to just check my ID, and he sort of did a double take, and he said, "Piscatell," and I said, yeah, that's me. And he said, "Any relationship to Joseph?" And I remember looking at him and going, "Yeah, that's my dad." And that guy, he was like, "Oh, I know your father." And that's when I realized that perhaps there was more to the Mcsorley's experience than my dad had originally told me.